Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the ones who will join us later on to see this video in the recorded form. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to continue our discussion about assessing the pollution, contamination, the toxicity around us in our environment, which is affecting not just us as individual humans, but also the nature and the beautiful planet Earth as a living entity by itself. When we talk about health, that doesn't confine within us. Our environment has to be healthy for us to remain healthy. And unfortunately, the threats to our health and longevity is exceeding far beyond anybody could imagine. As I explained last time, just think about the atmosphere of our planet before the Industrial Revolution and today. Billions of tons of toxic and noxious materials are being released, consumed, and released into our environment, air, water, soil, and that reflects back through food and biology of environment to our body. And they are considered as antigens to us because many of these man-made compounds and structures, such as plastic, never existed in the environment before, in nature. Therefore, naturally, there is no enzyme digesting them. And when they are broken down to tiny compounds like plastic molecules, they will go through the biology of life and enter our food chain, first through the algae in the water, and then the fish and the marine life, and then the birds, the animals, and of course, us at the end. Everybody more or less is interested in anti-aging, longevity. It's not about living longer. It's about living healthier and more in harmony. Because remember, health is the state of harmony. Harmony is the balance. When things are balanced, there is enough giving and receiving according to each other. Then we will trigger and we will create a beautiful life, not just for us, for everything around us, everything within this beautiful universe and the future generations to come. The US Environmental Protection Agency and Environment Canada have reported that millions and millions of tons of toxins, chemical compounds are produced and are utilized to use in nature, in industry, and ultimately they are released back into our nature. There are about 350,000 forms of chemicals, more than 10,000 chemicals used only in our food, which is the subject of our talk today. And even though since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, this toxic load started to entering the environment, but until 1950, which it reached to a critical level, it was not substantial. Like in the mid-1920s, there was only a few tons of them per year. Today is more than 2 billion tons every single year. We talked about plastic last time, plastic contamination. We talked about the Eastern Garbage Patch, the Great Pacific Patch, an area of about 1.6 million square kilometers. This is 2 times as large as Texas, 3 times as large as France. This is similar area as Iran, floating on the ocean water in the North Pacific area, and that is collecting garbage, especially plastic compounds and particles from North and South America, as well as Asia. And because of the temperature of the water and movement, everything is collected. There are additional garbage patches all around the world. And by weight, this is about 45,000 to 129,000 metric tons of plastic particles. As of 2018, is definitely more today. Did you know that about 5 trillion plastic bags are being used every single year? That is about 160,000 plastic bags per second all over the world. So imagine if we human be a little bit responsible for our action, we're going to make a huge difference. And this is the purpose of this talks, to create awareness, because you, my friend, you are not just an individual. Every decision you make, every action you do, every thought you process, every choice you create, it is affecting the ultimate outcome of the entire universe. We've talked about these things before scientifically in our previous videos. We may talk about it again in future. So every one of us will become more aware, more knowledgeable, become more enlightened. And then when we decide to correct even a little bit something in our daily action, we make a huge difference. And this is the purpose of our talks, to create awareness among every one of us. So these plastic and these irreversible chemical molecules, when they enter biology, because their molecular configuration resembles fat, and they cannot be broken into water soluble in biology so that we can get rid of them through urine or feces or sweat. They stay in our body, they embed in the fatty tissue, and they start disturbing the fatty balance in us. Fat means hormones, the most important groups of hormones in us, which are called steroid hormones. These are fundamental basis of our biology. Our brain is made of fat. The membrane of every cell in our body, which is the conscious part of the cell, is made of fat. So when these fatty soluble chemicals, which cannot be excreted, enter and stay in our body, they disturb the structure and the function of our biology. And there you go. Now we have predisposition to chronic diseases, degenerative diseases, autoimmune diseases. You think about it. The immune system is responsible to eliminate anything which is non-self, including chemicals. Now imagine something is stuck to one of our cells or inside the tissue which cannot be removed. So the cells of the immune system go over there, they throw enzymes, they try to get rid of it, but the enzymes they produce is not capable of dissolving the garbage stuck inside. So the more enzyme, the more irritation in the vicinity, and there you go. Now we end up with a lot of broken tissue around where the toxic compound stays there, but everything else is broken around them. This is called autoimmune condition. Think about it. I want to talk this time about more food, but there is more chemicals around which we're going to divide them into additional talks in future, like something about, for example, heavy metals, something about other industrial chemicals like PCBs, dioxin, pharmaceutical contamination in our environment, how excessive medication or byproducts of medicine, which is released in the nature, is causing trouble. Use of unsafe cookwares, aluminum pots, Teflon, things like that, smoking, cigarettes, refined tobacco, let's say shisha that is very accustomed today with that aluminum foil on the top and hot charcoal on the top of it. Think about it. And also these vapes, which are now becoming very popular among everybody, almost mostly in the newer generation. They have no idea what they are doing to their body. We have a lot of contamination in terms of energy signals, or perverse energy is called. All these microwaves, these cell phone towers, the signal that constantly our cell phones are sending around, they are resembling the biological energy signal that are used by the cells, because cells also have a system of walkie-talkie. They talk to each other through energy signals. So because a lot of disturbances, and everywhere now you go, you're under coverage of the Wi-Fi without knowing what could happen. We're talking about long-term exposure. And then we can talk about later on about smog and whatever that comes out of the exhaust of engines. This is pollution in the air that comes back to the water system. I used to live in Canada, at that time, like we had suddenly a bad air quality for 2 to 3 days, as if the smog was coming to the north from the US, and it was going over Toronto or the Ontario area. It would take about 2 to 3 days to go towards the north, but ultimately it goes to the north, and because the air is cold there, it condenses and comes and it mixes with the ocean water, and there you go. Now we have a spread of it everywhere. We have problem with cosmetic products that are used by everybody almost, more or less. Many of them contain a lot of heavy metals, a lot of disturbing chemicals, fat-soluble chemicals in them. It's not just about making color on your face, it's what is left there and is absorbed to your system. But today, we're going to be focusing mostly on food contaminations, chemicals in our food. This global toxicity issue comes from a few facts. Number one, the technology is growing really, really fast, and newer technology is coming. So there's a desire for producing more, and the demand for it. Think about the number of the wealthy people who have ability to purchase more things than ever before. The number of the millionaires are exceeding very exponentially. And then the human greed and extravagation that is there, and then of course lack of boundaries and responsibilities from the individual to the industry level as well, even though I'm sure the government agencies are not trying more than ever before to regulate a lot of these um, conditions, but most of them cannot be regulated as easily as you may think. They result in diffuse pollution and garbage accumulation everywhere. Some countries, third world countries you travel, you may see piles of garbage everywhere on the middle of the road, and the rivers are contaminated, and you've seen a lot of pictures almost everywhere. You see, you are aware of this ozone layer damage, which is for decades now. The ozone layer, which is supposed to filter out UV, is broken in many places, and this is mostly because of chemical which is lighter than air and travels up to the higher levels of atmosphere, damaging the ozone layers. Or a lot of greenhouse gases are produced by the nature, including, let's say, nitric oxide or methane or even CO2 that could entrap the heat at the lower level of atmosphere and raising the temperature. So a lot of droughts, a lot of sudden weather changes, even seasonal changes may happen, flooding and strong storms or things like that are now happening more than ever before. So together, of course, they're creating global and ecological changes in our planetary biology. And that means everything, even your health, is being affected too. The toxin, as we explained before, is a compound that disturbs natural biological function. A flow of life, as at some places, is disturbed because of the blockages this toxic stuff could cause to the body. You've heard about, for example, a lot of people with insulin resistance. What does it mean? There is enough insulin, there's receptors of insulin, but something is blocking this insulin not to be able to attach to the receptor properly. Think about the layer of toxins, for example, altering the configuration of this antenna, which is like a key and lock. They have to fit properly. Now they cannot fit anymore. So, and the toxins could create diseases in us because of the disturbance in our biology. Remember, health is a quality of flow, the ease in the flow. Anything disturbing the flow, causing stagnation, will predispose us to diseases, or they could aggravate existing diseases in us. Again, planet Earth is a living organism, living entity by itself. Like everything else, it has to stay within the balance. So like our body, when there's pollution, it has to be able to clean the amount of the pollution production or entering our body it cannot exceed from abilities to detox, our own natural ability to detox. The same thing should be applied to planet Earth. Otherwise, the dirty environment that is increasing by intensity around us will trigger additional reaction by the Mother Earth. Remember, the Earth existed here way before we were created, and it will be around way long way after we are gone. So we human of today, act like viruses causing a lot of disturbances, and we damage everything now. We have to become aware. Okay, let's go towards our original topic of today. It's about food and food contamination. The commercial production of the food today is like about $10 trillion worth of industry today, as actually by the year 2025 it was. And there is about 6.34% growth rate from now until the year 2030, because the population is increasing, there is more demand, and there is more ability to purchase stuff and things like that. And I explained them earlier too. So the food additives are used now in this industry to preserve the food, to enhance flavor, to improve appearance of the food, to maintain safety and quality throughout the production, storage, and consumption. So industrial classification of food additives are in two categories. One is the sensory ingredients to enhance the taste, texture, aroma, and appearance of the food. And the second groups are considered as functional ingredients, which are to provide nutritional benefits or preservative benefits, including fat replacements, natural preservative, antioxidants, and so forth. Now, let's categorize these food additives. They come in different levels. One of them, a group of them, are called preservatives. Another one are flavor enhancers. Another one are color additives. You should know that people who are used to consuming a lot of fast food all the time, in a year they may consume quite a few kilograms of these garbage chemicals in their food without knowing about it. Of course, there's no solid study to prove that all, but I've read a lot of articles about other scientists or groups of people assessing things, and they came up to large numbers per year of like quite a few pounds or kilograms, up to like 4 or 5 kilograms of them per year. We consume them, although we find them small amount at the time in the food, but the problem is the long exposure, and many of them have cumulative effect on us. They stay in our body for a long time. What are the risks they could cause? They affect everything in our body. Let's say the effect on our immune system is to reduce the power and sensitivity of our immune system. That means allergies, intolerances, autoimmune disorders, like growing bad microbes in us, because the immune system, when it is alert and functions properly, bad microbes will never get a chance to grow. Like a good police forces controlling the cities, the moment they are off or they don't work or they're on a strike, everybody could go above a neighbor's wall and steal or cause problems or stuff like that. Yeah, the same story. They could affect our nervous system, affecting the mood. Look at how many people are suffering from anxiety, depression, mood swings, or things like that. On our cognition, they could affect that irritability, because when the toxins are higher than normal, the nerves can never function properly. They could affect our sleep quality, memory. Many people nowadays are suffering from loss of short-term memory. They cannot concentrate, and they can't function properly. Toxins will affect the quality of the water in our system, like river which become more polluted. That means liver. That means that means blood and lymphatic system. And the most important organ filtering the toxins out of the blood is the liver. When there's too much toxicity imported or produced in us, liver becomes congested. It cannot keep up its function anymore. So this toxicity will spread around, and now it will reach to cells. Every cell in our body should be in a swimming pool of clean water, which comes from the blood, bringing not oxygen, nutrients, and washing away all the dirt that is produced by the cells. But in this case, the river becomes polluted. You could never enjoy swimming in a polluted river or water pound somewhere collected after a night of rain, for example. You never feel healthy or fresh. The same as with our cells too. When there's congestion in the liver and detox system, people feel fatigued. The skin becomes unclear, itchy. We become predisposed to eruptions, skin eruptions, eczema, and things like that. They affect our reproductive system, as I said, because of the hormonal effect. So think about fertility in men and women. By the way, did you know that the men have only 50% of the sperm count today than what they used to be about 50 years ago? And in many studies, it says that estrogen-type compounds which are trapped in the body of man is now exceeding the total amount of testosterone. So men are not as man as they used to be anymore, at least hormonally, because of this toxicity. And there's a lot of other sexual organ problems, like eruptions inside, for example, cyst, fibroids, things like that. In women, we see them a lot. These toxins could be also teratogenic. They could become a source of creation of the diseases as well. But don't worry about these things. I know that listening to all these negative information could affect you in the wrong way, but there are reasons that I explained this to you, and I mentioned that before. This is for the purpose of being aware of really what is happening around us, so we can raise our voice, we can make better choices. So by our choices, we can change the outcome of these industrial functions and actions, and we can control the greed of the ones who own the planet Earth in their mind, and they give themselves a chance to do whatever they want to do. So anyways, there's about 320 different substances as E number. These are European Union codes for additives to the food. They come in many different categories, mostly 7 major groups of them. Like there are coloring agents, there are preservatives, like E100 to 199 are coloring agents, 200 to 299 are preservatives. A group of them are considered as antioxidants. Bunch of them are emulsifier, stabilizer, and thickener. Some of them are salts and acids, or salts of acids, flavor enhancers, and of course miscellaneous additives. I'm going to give quick examples of each so that you have a better idea. There's about 45 types of colors are being used in the food industry. They usually use to create a more favorable appealing of the food and enhance the flavor, of course. They can be derived from natural sources or they can be chemically synthesized. Like for example, M&M candies are everywhere. Now I give you three examples. The red is called red 40, yellow is called yellow 5, and blue is called blue 1. Yeah, the red 40 has a potential side effect for hyperactivity in children, allergies, and behavioral changes. Mostly think about allergies. Um, the yellow 5, tartrazine, and yellow 6, they can again trigger allergic reactions, tummy issues, hives, wheezing, or even in very sensitive people, children, they could trigger asthma attacks as well. The blue 1 and blue 2, these are dyes used in candies, other rather more than just M&M. And again, they could easily trigger risk of allergy and hyperactivities. Even blue 2 in some studies have been associated with tumor in the brain of mice or animals in the laboratory when they were studied. Yeah, preservatives, like about 39 types of them. They are used to extend the shelf life of the products and maintain good quality for the food. They are also added to prevent spoilage that are done by microorganisms such as bacteria, fungi, or let's say other microorganisms like yeast, mold, things like that. One of them, for example, sodium benzoate. You see it in a lot of products, especially in acid food like salad dressing, carbonated drinks. Again, allergy, hyperactivity, gut health disruption. And if they are mixed with vitamin C, they could trigger some sort of production of some sort of carcinogenic compounds called benzene. This is very, very toxic to our health. Another group are sulfates. They are used in dried food, wines, and stuff like that, mostly to prevent browning and spoilage. Again, they could create respiratory symptoms, digestive, skin, and systemic reactions, particularly in sensitive individuals. Again, they could trigger asthma as well. We have tartrates and tartaric acid, which is a sole product of yeast. They're used as antioxidants. We see them in a lot of different beverages, candies, ice cream, baked goods, yogurt, gelatin, desserts, and things like that. They again could create gastrointestinal discomfort, skin irritation, allergies, again, reactions related to allergies as well, kidney and muscular complication, and DHEA, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder in sensitive children. Another groups of these additives are called antioxidants. They sound like good stuff, but they could also be from natural sources or unnatural sources. And in natural sources, it has to be in a sort of balance with everything, as you cannot just put too much of them. But they may include, like let's say E300, which is ascorbic acid, and E301, which is sodium ascorbate. They're mainly used in fruit juices and processed food to prevent oxidation and prevent rancidity, especially in fats and oily products. Now, a group of them are flavor enhancers. This is to intensify the existing flavor of food without adding their own distinct taste. They're used mostly in processed foods to improve palatability. Examples include E620, E621, which is glutamate and monosodium glutamate. They are there to create pleasant taste in the food that we use, widely used in dishes and snacks. Sometimes there is yeast extracts that are used often to enhance umami flavor. This is like tartaric acid added to create that good taste that we sometimes crave to have. They could cause nausea, headache, chest pain in sensitive people. Now, some of them are NutraSweets E951, like aspartame, artificial sweetener that you find it in diet sodas in coffee shop as sugar replacement or things like that. These are neurotoxic, potent chemicals. In sensitive people, they definitely disturb the balance of the nerves because they could cause excessive firing of the nerves. So they could erode our nerves. They could trigger headache, dizziness, and other nerve-related problems in sensitive people, generally in everybody, but some people don't feel it yet. Okay, other categories of food additives could be like emulsifiers. This is mainly used to mix things which cannot be naturally mixed with each other, like water and oil. Thickeners and stabilizers, like for example, xanthine gums. GMO. Let's talk about GMO, genetically modified organism used in enhancing different forms of food. Food is not just the shape of the food. At the molecular level, it has to look like food too. This is how our biology is designed to be. They do GMO to create larger yields, to produce, let's say, crops which are resistant to insects or resistant to pesticides, or let's say they can grow when the land is drought, during the drought and the land is dry, or they can grow in salty land, for example, but they can never be healthy. Imagine you are an experienced horse rider. They promise you to genetically modify a new strand of horse, which is guaranteed to run faster than any other horse. They deliver it, and it does that. It will run faster than any other horse. But when you go close, you notice that, oh my goodness, it looks like a horse from distance, but when you go close, you see the teeth of a cheetah, and the claws are the same from cheetah, and the muscles of the leg is very similar to the muscles of the cheetah's leg. You know cheetah, you know the horse, but the combination never existed in nature. Consumption of genetically modified food at the cellular level will feel the same. The body will get stuck. Oh my God, what the hell is that? So there are problems with that as well, even though the industry is trying to make it easier and explain how this could help the population to survive, but there are serious consequences for that, which I'm going to go through them very briefly. The rest is up to you. Just search online if you're interested to know more about it. These are not my words, but what I can tell you is that in nature, genes go down vertically from parents to the offspring and so on. Here in the nature, they take one gene or a group of genes out from a species, they transfer it horizontally to a new species, and they embed it in there. Depending on where this gene lands, this could create different function and can never be 100% guaranteed. Before, they used different and old techniques. Now, as opposed to using viruses to deliver the new gene, they use other technologies which are safer in that sense, but still the problems remain behind. They are famous to increase allergic reactions in people. By the way, a lot of food nowadays are genetically modified. Also the food that they feed the cattle with. Previously, a shepherd used to take the cattle out to the mountain so that they could graze. In that process, the animal had a chance to consume shrubs and little herbs from many, many different forms. So the body became full of good quality fats, good quality nutrients, good quality antioxidants, chlorophyll, and everything else that could ever exist. Now they keep the cattle in the farm. They feed them with either corn or soy, which mostly are genetically modified, perhaps, especially if imported from the US. And because they don't get enough minerals and nutrients by eating just a few certain forms of food, not a variety of them, they are allowed to add powdered bone to their food. Now, we're talking about cattle, cows, sheep, goats. They're not designed, their digestive system is not designed to digest bones like that, so they become infected. So the industry allows them to use legally some antibiotics constantly, which will reflect into every bit of the body of the cattle, from the meat to the dairy products or whatever that comes with it. And of course, by law, they are allowed to use hormones on them, which I'm going to be talking about a bit later. So this is not the real food when we eat them. It may look like a piece of meat, but it's not the real piece of meat. So they trigger allergic reactions because with genetically modified new proteins which are created could never be looked at by the human body as natural protein. So it could trigger a lot of sensitivities. They create a lot of antibiotic resistance issues among small little microbes inside. And the nutritional portfolio of the products will be changed. The composition of the nutrients are changed. They create herbicide resistant crops, or let's say insects, or wheat or stuff like that, and that would reflect into microorganisms as well. And they say when you consume anything with genetically modified let's say chromosomes in them, it will be digested through the digestive system, which is not correct. It will pass on. This is not my word. There's a lot of studies to prove that. And it has a potential to affect our genome and the balance of our genetic stuff within us as well. So the microbiome, the natural gut microbiome, will be affected as well. There's also unknown long-term effect of genetic modification. It has to be taken by generations to come, so that the researchers can go back and look at a few past generations to see, okay, what happened to them after consumption of genetically modified food. There is possible environmental concern with the GMO food as well. Like, for example, loss of biodiversity, because you create certain entities from this genetic modification, and it does not allow the naturally growing genes to express themselves properly. As I said, there is herbicide-resistant super weeds, pesticide-resistant insects, genes transfer to the wild plants, something that we didn't want, or the effect of on non-targeted organisms. We never wanted other organisms to receive these genetically modified items, but it enters their bodies as well. Increased chemical dependence among the crops and agricultural system around, and of course soil and water contamination. There's a article by the Institute for Responsible Technology, IRT, that you could search online, that lists about 65 health risks of genetically modified organisms on our biology and environment. In that study, they talk about what happened to the mice when they were fed with GMO potato, tomatoes, and corn. They developed a lot of abnormalities in their blood. They started bleeding, tumor appeared in them, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, not to make you bored, but if you're interested, just search online. The gene insertion, they say, could disrupt the DNA and create unpredictable health problems. That is absolutely correct, because they don't know where this gene lands. And plus, when a gene functions in a certain way in a species, when they take that genes out, that genes was not just by itself functioning that way. It functioned depending on its environment in that genome as well. When they transfer it to another entity, it is no guarantee that they could act exactly the same. Okay. We've been talking about almost 30 minutes, and I'm just going to go another 5 minutes and leave the rest for the next video, so you don't get tired and bored. Now, there's another problem. Imagine a pregnant mother being fed with genetically modified food. It's a threat to the developing fetus. First of all, the embryo development can be adversely affected even by tiny amounts of these genetically modified substances in the diet of the mother. The herbicide-tolerant genes could enter the gut and change the microbiome, so it changes the behavior of the mother's gut. Even a pregnant mother's diet may even alter the gene expression in the fetus, and it could be passed on to the next generations. Anyways, the GM particles could also contain substances that impact the normal fetal development. Okay, so these are very, very important. If you're pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, you have to be careful about what you eat, because a lot of these things will easily pass through placenta, and that little fetus inside is growing really, really, really fast. So anything to disturb this genetic sequence of new cells that happen could trigger something more difficult. The last subject of today, I'm going to talk and leave the rest for for future videos is about hormones and antibiotics that are used on livestock regularly by law. When they are similar to estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, not progesterone, but estrogen, testosterone, and let's say thyroxine. So they affect the fertility, they create autoimmune condition and degenerative diseases, including cancers in sensitive people. There are different groups of them. Some of them are anabolic hormones to stimulate the body of the animals to produce more muscle and more fat. Sounds like a good business income. There's a lot of growth hormones in them to stimulate the faster growth, and usually they are combined with a bunch of other stuff to promote this faster growth. There are insulin type growth factor 1 that they are used to enhance growth performance in certain livestock species, and also beta androgenic receptor antagonists, which are group of hormones used preferentially to increase nutrient partitioning from fat to muscles in beef, swine, which is pig, and turkey production, and of course a lot of growth hormone promoters that are being used. Now they are allowed by industry, they are allowed by the laws, because the whole idea is to produce more. But food is the most important medicine of all. Don't be afraid. Make better choices. Watch out what you give to your children. It's okay to give them occasionally some candies. It's not okay to keep them on candies as reward all the time. Go back to what 50 years ago people were using. Stay away from highly processed food, lots of sugar, corn syrups in them, lots of refined salt. Use or choose better quality ingredients for your cooking, better cooking oil, better cooking pots or cookwares, less heat, more natural stuff, more balanced food. We can talk about these things in future videos very easily. But remember, the more conscious you are, the faster changes will happen in the right way. And you, my friend, will benefit it directly. So if you become responsible to take care of your garbage, to have better choices, do some research about it, or ask questions from the ones who seems to be more expert in these areas, you're going to create a much better and healthier life, not for yourself, but also for your beautiful children and the future generations to come. But we hope for that. Let's put our hands together for a more beautiful and more balanced world. You are the owner. This world belongs to us, not to the politicians or the owners of the industry. They just use us because we didn't know what they were doing. Now we know. Let me know if you have any questions. Next time is going to be next week on Saturday again, 1 p.m. This is 16, so it's going to be on the 23rd at 1 p.m. Dubai time. We will continue our discussion about contamination in the food. Until next time, I wish you a pleasant week to come. See you soon.